welcome back, PowerHouse family and friends. Welcome to PowerHouse. It's a show. It's a podcast. It's a show about commercial fence where we talk about all things commercial fence and commercial fence adjacent. So break out your plan sets, roll up your sleeves, get your hard hats ready because we're coming at you hard and heavy. Welcome to the show, my other host, Dan Turbyville.
Hello. How's it going?
Here we are. Welcome, guys. This episode is this correct? Season 2, episode 27.
No, it's not correct. I don't even know. We got in trouble last time for that, you know?
Alrighty, so we have no idea what episode this is, although I do know what we're going to talk about. Quick preview. The question for today's show is, do we break down our prices? And we'll dig into that a little bit. But first, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our sponsors. It's mostly us.
Yeah. You know, I wanted to, so I was thinking about just like laying my wallet on the table.
Yeah, you said
and
that
then
before.
point a camera at it and be like, we have a very special guest today. I want to introduce our sponsor.
Wallet. That's right. So anyways, you can see behind us, well, it's Dan's wallet by way of various businesses.
Yeah.
Memphis Fence Company, of course, which is
of course
why we're wearing the shirts, because we are here at work.
Oh, what? You can't even see mine.
Having just left work.
Yeah.
At work and on Memphis Fence Company property. MFC Manufacturing. And then, of course, Simpalo, software that Dan built.
You know, we never
built, but designed.
We never talked about
Brainchild.
MFC Manufacturing. What does it do? What is that?
MFC Manufacturing is intended to fill a need for people in the fence industry who need a custom fence product. Ultimately,
Yeah.
I think we found ourselves in a position where there was an architect spec a specific dimension and size of channel and picket and forming, and that product just didn't exist.
Yeah, it was like a hybrid of like 3 different drawings that they stuck together.
So as opposed to offering them the value engineered, here's what we'd offer instead of what you want, we found a way to design and engineer the panel they wanted.
We just do what you need.
We did what they needed. And so we thought maybe somebody else might need that. We also have some forming capabilities, and we've designed some warehouse implement stuff, but mostly just fence fabrication. We do custom aluminum gates that we can ship anywhere in the country and outside the country potentially. But
you know what? Speaking of aluminum gates,
Yep.
You know what I saw? I saw the second person that I've seen announce that they're now building aluminum slide gates in segments.
Okay. Modular.
Don't you remember we talked about that?
And then we saw one.
And then we never do it. And then we saw one, and now we've seen 2. Things happen. So
yeah.
Anyways.
So MFC Manufacturing.
Yep.
All kinds of manufacturing needs. The cool thing is MFC Manufacturing has a team of 2 of probably the most talented designers I know.
Who's that?
That's me and Dan.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's what MFC Manufacturing is. We also partner with Thornton Consulting Group.
Yeah.
Who Tony Thornton of Thornton Consulting Group was on the show last week.
No. He'll be on the show July 11th.
In a couple weeks. He's on the show in space and has yet to manifest.
We've seen it. You have not. How about that? So hopefully the link to his events are in the description.
We don't know.
We think.
We don't know anything.
So go check out one of his events. They're cool. They're good. We'll be at one in Oklahoma. Is that? Yeah.
Yes, Oklahoma.
Okay.
I believe it's the
Monkey Island. Yeah.
Cool. Good. We got that settled. Takes 2 of us to figure that out sometimes.
I don't know why we're terrible at that. I swear.
You've been there. That's the crazy part. So we are Dan Turbyville and Zach Shue. We are here. We are live.
Phone number's on the bottom. 901-878-4987.
901-878-4987.
if anyone dares to ring the phone.
If you got any questions about the sponsors, any of the people that have been on the show, want to contact any of us, we always throw out, reach out to us. We're open for questions or whatever. You don't have to want to buy something to just give us a call. Also, any of our guests, a lot of our guests mention their availability to talk you through whatever situation. We have, Dan Wheeler was on. He talked a lot about no dig. He said he's down to talk to people. Tony's down to talk to people. Although he does talk to people for a business, he's also very forthcoming up into wherever that line is where it starts to cost money.
Right.
I guess I haven't crossed that line just yet, but
Yeah.
one day, I will have popped the proverbial question that will require me to pay him, I guess.
There is a line somewhere. But no, man, that's what's cool about, like, I don't know, the fence industry is everybody is pretty open to just getting a phone call and answering some questions. And not really like charging and not really holding back from anything. So that's been my experience. Try it. Reach out to somebody. See if they answer your question.
For sure. I'm with that. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been reading. If I look weird as crap, it's because we don't have a producer and I'm acting as producer.
Yeah.
So bear with us there on the video. I'm going to try to do my best. So let's talk a little bit about what we've been reading. It's only been a day since we recorded our last show, but not that people know that.
Right. So it's kind of weird.
So weird. It's weird for me. I've been out of town for a week, and I honestly, man, I used the opportunity to go barefooted for a week and not read. I didn't require a lot of myself. I was at a wedding party that lasted forever, and they required a ton of me. So in any like alone time, I just sat. We were in the mountains in Asheville. I just kind of sat on a rock and observed nature.
Did you actually go barefooted for a week?
Pretty much.
Okay, moving right along. So I listened to Unhinged.
Yeah,
I listened to full
good
episode
deal.
number 1. So that was cool. It's good. I like it. It's cool. I look forward to seeing what's coming.
Give me a little bit more detail on Unhinged and what that is, some background, who made it, where'd it come from? How were you introduced to it?
So we were introduced whenever the box showed up, right? I had heard about it a little bit before that. Matt Warner went on Joe Everest's show and they talked about it. And then the box showed up. We did the video of opening the box and all of that stuff. And got to hear a preview.
Rachel Cruzy gave it to us of My Salesman.
That's right. She sent us the box and we got to check it out and see a little sneak peek of it. And, we did a couple of promo videos and stuff like that. And then when the actual episode was released, we were able to hear the full episode.
And if I wanted to go listen to it now, what would I do?
It's on Apple Podcast.
So just Apple Podcast Unhinged.
Yep. Hey, Mark. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching us.
So Unhinged, Apple Podcast. Is it on any other platforms?
Spotify.
Spotify. Okay, cool. So it's readily available.
So hopefully there's a link to the Unhinged website in the description as well, which shows you where it is available.
Sick. There you go. That's just a little bit of info for people who are like, I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
And another question. I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. Was it any good?
Yeah. I thought it was. It's pretty cool.
I'll listen to it and let y'all know what I think too.
And I mean, it's cool, man. It's like a real deal production with all kinds of like sound effects and different
cool
characters.
And the characters are not only played by people we know, but based on them to some extent.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I've also been listening to the audiobook of Mastering the Rockefeller Habits 2.0, which is maybe called Scaling Up. It's not really clear what the title of the book is, some kind of way. And that's written by a fella named Vern Harnish. So I'm kind of still trying to like get through the whole introductory part of what it's about and what it's going to try to teach you. But so far, so good on that.
Cool, man. And let's, as usual, take a moment. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all of the support. We hadn't been out in public in a while, so I haven't gotten that boost of, I listened to your show.
I got it today.
Nice.
I was doing a Simpalo demo, and this guy, he didn't just say like, hey, I listened to your show, but he like started saying things that we had talked about on the show.
I like that.
Right?
That's cool.
So that was neat.
That's cool, man. So thank you guys. Also, let me again extend the invitation to come on the show.
Yeah.
Also, we're running comments on the live thing, so you can comment now. We typically respond if it's at an opportune time or pertinent to the conversation.
Mm.
And then, of course, the call-in number 901-878-4987. We are ultimately doing this for you.
Yeah.
And so even like to critique and or ask us to talk less about something and more about something else, I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of direction of what you guys need and where we could fill that need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool. So thanks again. Ultimately, thank you. Thank you very much. We're in Memphis.
Thank you. So, yeah, you said we haven't been in public in a while. We're going to the West Coast show September 5th through 7th. I mentioned earlier, we're going to Thornton's Fence Business Conference that will be in December.
Monkey Island, Oklahoma.
Yeah, something like that.
Did it.
Shangri-La.
Right.
Hey. It's like there's just random little kernels floating around in here, and you got to find them every now and then. So now, what did Simpalo do for you this week? Nothing.
I've been really using it to upload hand drawings.
Yeah, nice.
And then scale them ultimately.
Nice.
I draw the line. Of course, when you set the scale on a hand drawing, it's not drawn to scale.
Right. It's not.
So I just set the scale, dispense with that part, relabel all the line to the actual measurement. And what it does for me is it provides me a count ultimately of posts, panels, and concrete.
You know my favorite part?
What's that?
It's cloud-based. It's there forever. So 18 months from now, when you have to bid a job again, it's all still there. That's my favorite part. Well, I like it. One of my favorites.
I've also been uploading the prices for the materials into Simpalo. I do use a spreadsheet that I made to calculate cost of the job, to estimate the job. Estimate, that's what that's called. I do use like a spreadsheet that I use to make an estimate, but I'm also putting the materials in Simpalo so I can compare, or I mean, if it's only been 3 days, I can go back and use that as reference for bidding.
Right.
You know? So that's pretty much it.
So I had a fun thing that happened. I used Simpalo to do this, but it wasn't really like a showing off Simpalo features, but it was what the story I could come up with. So I bid this job. I've had a contract since, I don't know, last January, February, something like that.
Yeah.
And so we're getting ready to actually do the job. And of course, the layouts changed. All this stuff is different than what it was. And I go in, it was all unit priced, right? So it's a barbed wire fence. So it was a per foot price for the barbed wire, per T-post, per wood brace post. There was 12 in the original bid, right? And so I went through his drawing, laid it all out in Simpalo, and I was like, hey, guess what? There's 104 now. And this dude like had a heart attack on the phone with me because it went from 12 to 104. And I was like, man, I don't know what you want me to do. Straighten the fence. But
that's right.
It was fun. That was fun.
Cool. And Simpalo adjusts your material
cold. Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yep. Hello, Ilaria.
Ilaria is checking in.
Yeah. She's trying to make sure we're doing it right.
Presumably from the beach or something.
Yeah.
Right? What'd she say? She had to be at the pool.
Yeah. Right.
I can't make it to work today. I'm too much at the pool.
Right. Something like that.
Thanks for checking in, Ilaria.
So now
I'm going to have to do the Italian word of the week.
Everyone's favorite part of the show. I know it is everyone's favorite part.
Oh, I love this tool. It's now time for tool time. It's time for tool time with Dan, the Turbyville tool time man. Turbyville.
There we go. We got there. I was talking to someone today and they were telling me something and he was like, I don't know if you followed any of that. I was like, well, it was quite a bit of a maze, but I think we got to the same point at the end. So the Vogel,
I do it on purpose.
The Vogel manual pipe notcher.
I have a piece of this thing on my desk today because for the first time in 70 years, it broke.
So we're going to tell you about a tool that fell apart today.
They still make them.
Oh, yeah.
So the Vogel manual notcher is genius. It's giant. It's heavy. It's actually not that big, really. You could use it on a bench top. It is a heavy piece of machinery. I've, in fact, seen a guy I know that did pipe rail for a business.
Yeah.
He had one mounted on the back of his trailer,
Mm.
and he would just roll out with a trailer full of pipe, and he built pipe rail on site.
Yep, we had one mount. There was one truck we used to have one mounted on because he would do a lot of like, gate repair kind of work and stuff like that in the field. And so he just had the pipe notcher mounted on the back of his truck.
Amazing, man, and it works awesome. Doesn't take a whole lot of leverage. I think we have probably added on to the lever in
Yeah.
order to decrease the amount of pressure that you have to apply.
Right. Yeah. So we have like a piece of pipe attached to ours that you can pull down, but
A 28-foot long stick.
right.
You can do it from the bathroom. This thing is great though, but you just buy the housing. I don't know how much they cost. The piece that I'm looking at replacing is the die holder and the die,
Mm.
which costs $600.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot considering that. This one at least has been working for 10 years. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
the 1 3/8
Mhm.
size. And so you can buy them in various sizes for all kinds of wall thicknesses. They have them made for tube and for pipe. So if you've got, thin wall or heavy wall, whatever. Am I leaving anything out about it? They make them in different degrees too. So if you
Do
need to
they?
cut, yeah,
I didn't know
I
that.
know. We just use the 90 all the time,
Right.
basically. And then we'll kind of cut it on a bevel and just 90
Yeah.
both sides
Yeah.
ultimately. But they make one that's for a bevel. And I don't really understand that currently, but
it exists.
right.
And if they made it, I suspect it probably works.
Right. I use Vogel for other parts that we
Mhm.
use for machining and forming.
The most expensive tool we own.
And yeah, it gets more expensive too as you break them
Yeah. When you use it.
regularly. Yeah. So yeah, that's funny, man. Our chain link gate fabricator brought me the part today.
Yeah.
Said, I need a new one of these. I said, how long have you had this? Or like, how'd you break this? He's like, oh, I just used it for 40 years is all.
Right.
Which is not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've had them forever. They keep on going. They work great. Super simple. Nothing to like, no electricity, nothing to like plug up and mess with and all that. And so you just stick the pipe in and you chomp and you roll on.
Why don't you introduce our topic today?
Okay. So the topic for today is going to be, do you break down your prices? So
What?
Yeah.
What heck you say, boy?
Yeah. So, you hear about that a lot, and you see a lot of posts on like social media and stuff where people are talking about breaking down their prices. And
what the heck you say, boy?
So this is a pretty big topic for me. I've spent quite a few hours doing a breakdown on the job, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. But
Right.
you see a lot of people ask like, oh, hey, a customer asked me to break down my prices. Should I do it?
It's such a, like, I guess counterintuitive. The first time for me was so, nope, not going to do it.
Okay.
And we've talked a good bit about transparency. I think our very first episode, we were like, this is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about this, about the, I guess, fear around telling them all your secrets.
Right.
But I mean, they got to know that you're a business.
Right.
And in order to be a business, how do you get to stay a business?
Well, you're going to have to make a little bit of money now and then.
Right. So if I charge you exactly what I pay for material, and then I don't charge you anything for the resources that are required to hire an employee, then how will we be here next time you need a fence?
Right. We wouldn't.
Right. So
I
think people get that.
I think. And so you see people ask questions like, hey, the customer asked me to break down the prices. What should I do? What should I tell them? And then you'll see these responses that people are like, oh, just tell them to hire someone else. Never give them a breakdown. Don't even think about doing it.
It's so
Stay
funny.
away.
For
all
me,
of this stuff.
all that response is egoic. It's all an ego thing. And they're like, why is it so? Because my first introduction to this question was, why isn't a lot of times, why is it so expensive?
Right.
And that's like the business to business or residential world, right?
What if you showed them why it was so expensive?
That's what I do.
Right.
I say it takes 9 hours to do this, 7.5 hours to do this. This part, aluminum welding, requires a specific piece of equipment
and a specific skill set.
That's what I told him.
Yeah.
So when that guy comes out, it costs a little more for him. They were like, okay.
Right. So let's think about this. All right. You're a consumer. you've got 2 quotes.
Yeah.
And you want to see what goes into this $10,000 quote that I got for my fence. And so you ask the 2 companies, one of them responds and says no. And the other one says, oh, that's a part of your decision making process. Let me give you what you asked for. Who
There
do
you
you
go.
think is going to get the job?
Right.
Right. And then also my next thought
So
was go ahead.
we're talking, I mean, really, there's kind of 2 ways of like breaking down your price. One, I'm talking about itemization right
Mhm.
now, basically, but there's also the breakdown of with you're dealing with the general contractor of materials, labor, overhead profit,
Oh yeah,
which is
we'll
an
get down to
okay,
that.
good. Just
We'll
to
get down
but
to
just
that.
to specify for the listeners that we're currently talking about itemization.
Well, or even just your material, labor, overhead, and profit,
Right.
right? Maybe you just break down those 4 numbers. You don't, I don't think if a customer asks me for a breakdown, I'm going to start by itemizing every component required to build the fence.
Right. But we do currently, because we've been faced with this over and over, we break out chain link portion,
Oh, yeah.
iron portion, gates, automation,
Yeah. So,
bollards, anything additional. And sometimes even say these things can be added at an additional cost, which is this per gate or whatever, if it's a hardware package or something like that.
right. So by default, what we do a lot is what Zach's saying is if there's ornamental and chain link and automation on the job, we're going to give a price for the ornamental, the chain link, and the automation separate.
Right.
And if we want someone to buy the entire job, all we do is just put a little line item on there that says, this price assumes you're going to purchase this entire package.
Right.
Or like the price is not good unless you purchase the entire package or, something along those lines.
Right.
So that's one piece of it. But I was really even just going a step further for like the material, labor, overhead, profit kind of breakdown.
Well, let's dig in. So those who say never break it down, never do it, we do it. And you're hearing some of the reasons why.
So here's a question. What's the worst that could happen? Right.
You won't get the job, I guess. I mean, I don't what
So that they want you to break down your $10,000, right? And you tell them, okay, I got 4,000 worth of material, 3,000 worth of labor, and 3,000 is overhead and profit. 4, 7, 10. Boom. Look at that. And I mean, so
it's like you went to kindergarten.
I did. I did. That was the last place I went, but I did go. So at that point, like, what are they gonna do?
I don't know.
Are they gonna say, "Oh, I can get that material cheaper than that"? Okay,
I guess
then
my fear for me, if currently I'm not worried about it, but if I have to recreate that, I'm thinking a new relationship with a prospective general contractor, I would be worried that they would dislike me for, not use me going forward, basically. Like
because
if
you
you're
charge too much to do
I
something,
guess so. I don't know.
right? So, here's a thought.
I
Let's
did hear
say,
someone told me the other day, I was like, "Have you tried this company to meet this need?" And they said, "Oh no, they charge too much." That was it.
yeah,
They wouldn't even request a quote on the specific thing. I guess just over and over, they've
yeah,
historically quoted too high.
yeah, and I mean that happens. So,
That's
yes.
the worst thing that could happen that I can sell.
So
Someone decides, you know what? Those people quote too high every time. I don't like the way they broke their stuff down, and I don't like that guy or whatever.
well, if you tell them no, they're probably not going to like you either. Right?
That's very true.
So I think if you're bidding the job properly and ethically, then what is there to
Ooh,
hide?
that's why you wouldn't want to break it down.
I don't know.
Because I got a item in here that says this guy's a pain in the ass.
Right. And I charged him an extra $1,500 because I didn't like him. Like his dog barked at me. Like, I mean, what's in there? And so if you bid the job and you say, oh, it's just material times 2 or material times 3 or whatever that is, then how would you take that and turn it into a breakdown and show them the material, the labor, da, 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 da. Right. So you probably couldn't do that. So that's why I say if you're bidding the job properly and ethically,
I mean,
then
material times 3 could easily be represented as 30, 30, 30.
it could.
Or, 33.333 or whatever.
Right. So, yeah.
That was 5th grade math.
So if they do start talking about the material and they're like, hey, I can get this material cheaper if I go to Home Depot and get it. That's the time when you say, nope, we're not doing it. We're out. We don't install a fence unless we provide the material. Sorry.
Right. That's right, man. And that's the cool thing about all this is that you're never, well, until you sign the contract, you're not locked into anything.
Right. Up until that contract is signed, either of you can walk away.
Right. And if you don't like the path they're going or determine that you don't want to do it like that, then don't.
Right.
But don't shoot yourself in the foot and just turn down the opportunity to get the job because you don't want to try to break down the numbers.
Right. I agree. I mean, because, ultimately it's a part of whatever they're going through to try to make a decision. Right. If it wasn't, they wouldn't ask for it.
Right. That's right.
So for me, the response kind of depends on the situation that we're in. All right. So you kind of talked about the third. If somebody calls me and they're like, hey, can you kind of give me an idea of a breakdown? How much of this is material, blah, blah, blah. Then, I mean, I'm just going to rattle off like it's roughly around a third.
Right. Typically, I've not encountered a homeowner asking in that fashion. They don't ask about, they just want to see labor and materials. I think they're aware that there's markup on either. And so I just break it out that way. Labor, materials.
Yeah.
And that
And just include your overhead and profit on top of the labor and material already.
And they seem to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And basically that for me is like a 60-40 material, labor.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're like, if you give them that and that's all they're looking for is some kind of an idea, then now they're like, okay, here, let me sign this contract.
I know this is not the purpose of the show, but I think it's important to address the us and them mentality that I've experienced, I've had at times where the customer or prospective customer is the villain in this story.
I don't think they are.
I know we're saying that they're not, right?
Oh,
we're
okay.
saying they're asking us for a thing and we give it to them. But I think that unwillingness to show your cards is like seeing how about not a villain, but an adversary.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if this interaction is adversarial at all, the only way I could put it into context of being adversarial is that I'm going to fight to give them what they need or what they want. And that's it. And we, somebody, I can't remember who it was talking about the salesperson. And in this circumstance, I'm now the salesperson. If I'm being asked to break down a price, salespeople are deemed the third most untrustworthy person on the planet.
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing terribly. Somebody.
No, salespeople are definitely
right.
very
So we
low on that who's trusted kind of thing.
Untrustworthy salespeople. So I know I'm already in that situation. They are just asking me for a little bit of comfort.
Right.
And that's what we can provide.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not trying to trick them. And so if I want them to know I'm not trying to trick them, I'll just let them see behind the scenes just a little bit.
Right.
Why
not?
Right.
What's it going to hurt?
So people who ask for these, typically we've kind of moved through homeowner some, and we've talked about both of the ways or a couple of ways that you and I have encountered that and what we've done. Insurance companies will ask.
Yeah.
Right. And I think basically third applies there. Easy peasy. Really, I think a third across the board can work in most circumstances.
Yeah, I wouldn't just like, if you're going to put something in writing, I probably wouldn't just go exactly to the penny, a third, but
right.
Like, I mean, just make it somewhere around there and, just make it work. And there you go. There.
You got a question for me?
I have a question for you.
Who, me?
Yeah. Have you seen any property maintenance people asking for breakdowns like this?
Yeah. And I just ignore it.
I do.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. The most recent one I had was like, it was way broken down. So I just did it. I itemized the whole job.
Yeah. And what happened?
We're negotiating the sale currently.
Okay. But they're still talking to you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you didn't tell them to piss off.
No.
And go talk to someone else.
After the purple coaching was on? Michael and Robert
Yeah.
Whitaker.
Yeah, Captain Michael.
Captain Mike.
Yeah,
I know him by Captain Mike now.
yeah.
After sometimes someone asked if would I give them a total list of materials, a free takeoff. In this circumstance, yes, I actually did.
I wouldn't start with that.
No, they were nitpicking, and I was like, you know what? Well, I say nitpicking. See again, adversary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't start
What's the
off with
word?
that,
What?
but
It's
you might
tedious
get there.
sometimes. It's tedious sometimes.
Yeah,
But I did. I said, 4x4, 1/8 wall aluminum post,
right.
which don't ever use those. But
So,
that's what they wanted. So
so
that's
that's a
what I
little
sold.
different world too, though, right? Because you're not quoting them something that they could go to material, go to
So
a box store and buy,
that's right.
right?
I tried. That's the funny thing. They have some product out there that's like a ghost in the fence world.
Mm.
I've sent photos. I dug around the
Oh, this is your
internet.
prefab job
Yeah.
from like a month ago?
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Oh,
So
wow.
basically, I quoted to the first property maintenance company, and they got fired. And then probably because of my price, I'm not responsible for how much markup they put on my price.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, that's probably
So then I
definitely
got
what it was.
they
It
were
wasn't you too expensive.
then the second property maintenance company calls and was like, "Hey, can you give me a price on this job at this address?" And I was like, "Oh, I know that address."
Yep. I'll have it to you in 5 minutes.
So I just told him, I was like, "Here's what's going on. Here's the situation that the fence is in, and here's what happened." Basically, the
Mm,
customer or corporate did not appreciate the price of that company, and instead of having them go through a different fence company, they just got a whole nother property maintenance company
mhm,
altogether.
right?
And I'd already been down the it's too much. Why does it cost so much? What are you using? What are you not using? And so I just told him, I was like, each post is going to take 3 bags of concrete. Jackhammering the old post out is going to take 4 hours with 2 men at this price. Oh, that's one of the things they requested. They wanted to know how many technicians would be on site for the duration, was part of their bid request. And it wasn't a form. It was just like a bullet point email that says these are
Yeah.
the things to include in your proposal.
So here's something interesting to me. Is do you think anyone's ever done this? And then the customer, the property maintenance company, whoever it is, shows up out there with a stopwatch, right? And they're like, wait a minute, there's only 3 people here, and they were here for 6.5 hours, not 7. You need to
Right.
give me a discount.
Well, are they going to prorate my time and pay me if I go over?
Right, exactly.
You know?
So my favorite thing is you hear these stories. Oh, well, first,
Oh,
hey
I didn't
Craig,
see Craig. Hey, Craig, what's going on, man?
what's happening?
I heard Craig got a new sponsor.
He did. Craig's on a roll.
Craig is the man.
Yeah.
He's
So
just so likable.
I heard a story about like this ship, right? And it's probably a made up story. I don't know, but the ship was sitting at a dock. They couldn't get the engine to work, right? So they had somebody come out and look at it, and they're like, "Oh, you need a new engine. It's going to be $2 million to put an engine in this ship or whatever." And so the people that own the ship were like, no, I don't think so. And so they wound up calling this mechanic, like, an old timer guy. And he came out there and brought a hammer and like went down there and hit it in the right spot and gave him a bill for $20,000. And they're like, what? $20,000? All you did was hit it with a hammer. He's like, no, you're not paying me to hit it with a hammer. You're paying me because I knew where to hit it with the hammer.
That's right.
Right. And so same kind of thing. Like, yeah, sure. All we're doing, I mean, maybe it took us half an hour less than we thought, or half an hour more than we thought, or whatever. But like at the end of the day, you're paying us because we know how to get this done.
Right.
Not necessarily paying us because it's going to take us exactly this number of hours, right?
Right. So to kind of dig a little deeper into Mark Cobb's question, I don't always do that. In this circumstance, yes, I essentially gave them a free takeoff. A lot of times we don't. On our proposals are relatively vague. We talk about the fence materials to some degree, enough that an informed person can decipher what they're going to be made out of.
Yep.
Kind of a rough linear footage. One thing that we do not do is produce a drawing of any sort or a submittal prior to getting a contract.
Right. I've done that once. And so this was actually a job bidding to a general contractor, and in somewhere it said that you were required to turn in a drawing or a submittal or something like that with your price. And so we were building some custom built, or we were bidding some custom built iron fence. And so I sent along a drawing with it and didn't sell the job, but that
And
was the one
then
time.
somebody else brought you your drawing to bid the job
Yeah,
later.
right. No, actually, I did that one time. Let me just tell you. So this guy calls me up and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna award this job to you. Can you go ahead and work on submittals?" And it was like a local company that I knew, and I was like, "Oh yeah, man, I got you." And so I start working on this thing, do the submittals, send it to him, and the guy's like calls me up like 3 weeks later, and he's like, "Oh, accident. Sorry, but we're hiring someone else." He's like, I was confused. I called the wrong company, whatever the case was. I don't know. But yeah, so I did submittals for that guy for free. But I mean, we try to protect ourselves and we try to stay away from doing that stuff as much as we can, but it happens sometimes.
Right.
Okay.
So this property maintenance company, I think, is the first one that's really required anything like that of a breakdown per se.
Right.
But like I said, I've gotten more and more accustomed to doing it, and a lot of times now I'm just ready to do it.
Right.
I mean, it sucks submitting and then
Mhm.
getting that, oh, hey, will you reorganize it? And
Will you do it again?
right.
Yeah.
In the way that I'd actually done it to begin with.
Right.
So it's like, why not just do it?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
I mean,
And that's the reason we started kind of itemizing things was so many people were asking for us to separate this and that. And so we just itemize it.
right.
So now I said that my response depends on the situation. So if you're bidding to a general contractor and they're asking you for this, just remember there's a lot of times in that world where you're going to have to give them a breakdown whether you want to do it or not.
Right.
So normally when I submit a schedule of values, it's going to have the material separated anyways because I want to bill them for stored material.
Right.
Right. So I'll have like one line that says material for whatever fence, and then the next line will say like installation of that fence. So I'm separating the material out anyways right there. Now I don't get into the breakdown of like, labor, overhead, profit, all of that kind of stuff. And honestly, in those forms, I don't put any markup on the material because a lot of times you have to send an invoice in
Right.
and then
To show that you've been invoiced for the purchase of the material you are
Yep.
invoicing them for.
Or your supplier will have to sign a waiver, or you'll have to prove that you've already paid for the material. Like there's several different ways that could go, but a lot of, like I said, I don't put a markup on it. I mean, if I spend $10,000 on material and I want to bill you $10,000 for that material, I'm just trying to get my money back. It's going to cost me 5% the retainage.
Remember, cash flow. Cash flow.
Hey, that's a very important thing.
That's right. So being able to breaking it out is the first step to being able to invoice for stored material, which is a big part of the cash flow, which we've talked about in many episodes.
Yeah.
Being important when getting into this GC bidding,
Yeah.
where the material exceeds the amount that you can have out there for that long, right?
Yep. So we've already shown them our material. Now, what if the job is like an OSIP job or certified payroll? So OSIP is a owner controlled insurance program where they'll provide certain types of insurance for you. So if you run into an OSIP job, well, now you got to give them all your payroll anyway. If you're doing a certified payroll job where there's wage rates, now you're sending them a report every week showing them the people's names and how much you paid them when they were on the job. So like you're giving them the labor in that scenario too. It doesn't. So like now the only thing you got overhead and profit that's left, right? So all of your direct costs to the job, you've already shown them.
Right.
Well, not like equipment rental and some other stuff that could be in there, but I've never experienced a time where somebody called me and they're like, "Man, that your ratio of material to everything else seems a little off."
Right.
It's always like, "No, we agreed to pay X
Well,
amount
and
of
at that
dollars for the
point,
job."
the lump sum has already been agreed to.
Mhm.
So how you break it down and it's managed is not a big deal to them at that point, it seems. Right. So the point is, long story short, in most circumstances, really just kind of get used to breaking it down. Be willing, be flexible. If you're doing a great job at saying no and making money, then keep rolling with it. But
Yeah.
especially when you get into the GC stuff, and for me again, like this property maintenance stuff, like those types of things, you're pretty much going to be required at some point to do it.
So the property maintenance people are looking for something that justifies the money they have to spend,
That's
right?
right.
So,
Because they are in turn going back to the customer and saying,
mhm,
here's why.
yep,
And that's their job.
yep,
That's what their job is to ensure the customer is getting what they deem to be the best deal possible.
right. Making sure they're getting something fair.
Right. So,
Um,
which I think that's kind of it across the board, right? That we're not out here saying this is how
So,
much we think it's going to cost.
I mean, you rewind a little bit, and as long as you're doing it ethically and quoting the job right, then
Right.
like it's not the end of the world to answer that question.
Right. That's right.
And there's plenty of like conversations that have happened in settings like these talking about margins and standard industry or like average industry overhead and that
Right.
kind of stuff. So
Which there's a show coming up, which we do talk about that, about overhead, and there's some numbers thrown out of percentages of overhead to look to try to shoot for and percentage of margin to try to hit target margin. And I think that'd be a good place to start to try to, for where we currently think collectively, I think is kind of where the margin we as a fence company, commercial fence company should be.
So we talked about that some just a touch with the Whitakers,
Right.
and then we talked about it more with Tony Thornton.
Right.
So
So 2 consultants.
Yeah.
So you can get a little gem out of that.
I think the show with Tony Thornton was pretty cool.
Good.
It's a-
Both
I
of
think
those
it's-
shows good. I mean, I would like to watch those back to back if I were a guy, and if I were not me, if I
Yeah.
weren't on the show, I guess.
If we
that
weren't
makes sense.
sitting here,
Right. So, okay. So I saw you working on a thing.
yeah,
Right. We're bidding a job, have bid a job, and there have requested more and more information pertaining to the job to
Mhm.
further the relation. So
yep.
I think here's the situation where we're like, you want it, you got it. When they ask for this, did you say no, or you're just like, whatever it is?
No, I was like, okay, I have no idea what you're asking me for, but I'm gonna figure it
Right,
out.
that's
I'm gonna
right.
get it done, and you're getting it.
Sure, no problem. But what's that again?
Right, right. Yeah, let me get right on that. And I
And-
just go to Google and start looking for
And
it.
that thing is a CSI level 4 breakdown.
Yep.
Which looks intense.
It is. It is. So the example they sent was pretty small text, and it took 3 pages, and it was every single little thing itemized. So every part and piece in our situation, every part and piece that goes into the fence is its own line item.
So a tie wire,
A tie wire,
a nut,
a nut,
a bolt.
Oh, nut and a bolt. You could
Okay.
probably
Oof.
lump some of those together,
Well, whatever.
But yeah, every single part. And so what's interesting about it is you not only have to tell them all of the parts, but then you have to put unit prices on the parts to tell them how much the material was. And you have to assign labor to every single part.
What?
Yeah. So the
Are
tie
we going to
wire,
be out here in the yard like tying fence and timing
Timing it?
ourselves?
well, once again, are they going to go out there with a stopwatch?
Be like, it took you 3 minutes to tie that 60 feet of fence off.
You said it was going to take you 2 minutes, and it took you 3.
You said it's going to take you 5 and it took you 2.
Right.
I'm going to need to see that credit.
Right. So yeah, it's a crazy thing, man. I've never seen this before. I've never done it before.
That makes me anxious just thinking about that.
So I have, oh man. So some of the line items, I have a truck, trailer, skid steer, mini X. I have the welder on the back of the truck. Like I just start itemizing all of these things. And so here's another little piece of
You
information.
got hand tools on there? You got to put drills and impacts, and
If you need to, then do it. And what I mean by if you need to is that you're maxed on a percentage of overhead and profit. They put a cap
so
on that.
Here we're getting into some weird, crazy math. So
Right. And so this particular situation, they allow me 10% overhead and 10% profit.
So heck yeah, I'm going to put a Milwaukee or whatever drill, whatever drill
Right.
on there.
And so if you need some extra money somewhere, then yeah, itemize it all. Right. So basically take your overhead and start itemizing it on there as line items.
Yeah, Gatorade packets.
Administrative fees, right? Project management, administrative, all of that kind of stuff is line items on there. Design is line item. So this job, there's like a design window. It's kind of like what are they had some term for it, bid, design, build, or something like that.
Right.
So like we had to bid the job before there was actually a complete design, and then we have to go through a design phase, and then we have to install it. So design work is a line item on there. So like I said, you just start itemizing all your overhead stuff up above, and then once you get that done, you can get you to a number. Insurance is a line item. Get you to a
Nice.
number.
Yes, get you to a number. That's what we all want to do.
So-
Dan Wheeler popped in. What's up, Dan?
Dan Wheeler. What's happening, man? Our number one fan. So
That's not a number one. That's a hashtag.
what? No, that's
Yeah.
a number.
That's a hashtag, Dan.
He's number fence fam. So the concrete, right? So I have a line item on there under, because it all is like the same type of like divisions as in a spec book. Right. And so you have a division for like dirt work. And so that's where I had to put like excavation. All my excavation for the post holes went in the dirt work one. And then I have a division for concrete where I had to put all the concrete stuff. And
that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's also pretty freaking intense.
Right.
Like
how long have you been working on this?
It'll probably be like I'm gonna say I'll have probably at least 6 hours in it by the time it's done.
Is there any way that you could quantify the size of this job without telling too much?
Big.
Okay. So I'll say that no one knows what my target sales are, but I'll say it's approximate. Well, this year it is my target sales goal for the year.
The size of this job?
Isn't that right?
No.
Oh, it's 6 times.
Yeah.
It's 6 times my target sales goal for the year.
Yeah.
Or actually 6 times my revenue last year.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
They don't have no idea what that means.
Right. Just know it's big.
It's stinking huge.
Yeah. Simon Davis is here.
I've never seen a Simon Davis here before. Welcome, Simon Davis.
Thanks for tuning in
to the audience.
So yeah, it's a big job, and that's the reason why Zach was saying, like, if they ask me for something, I'm like, sure, whatever you need.
Right.
So
I think I heard a whisper that like leak out of one of the meetings that if we get this job, everybody who works for Memphis Fence, office staff included, admin, HR, will be working on this job around the clock.
Yeah. That's it. We're not doing anything else. There's a lot of time constraints.
From Australia?
Yep. Yeah.
Sick, dude.
That's what I thought. Because I think I've seen Simon in a Facebook group called the Fence Post or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of maybe people from Australia.
Sick.
So it's cool. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. This like I said, the most in-depth breakdown I've ever seen for sure. And it's getting wild, man. It's getting wild. So yeah. So we already talked about this a little bit. It limits you to 10% overhead and profit. So just put the Fence Post is his group. Yeah.
Cool.
I got it right. Cool, man. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. So the the whole 10% overhead and profit thing, you see that a lot. And I think it's when you have like government money in a project, but maybe in other situations, I don't know. I've seen it a lot on change orders. And so I've done a lot of jobs where you go in and you give lump sum bid on the front end, but then any change orders have to be itemized. And so you go through and do something similar, not nearly as in depth, but you kind of have to break out all your material a little bit and then break out your labor and stuff. And so you're given this itemized breakdown anyways. And I've seen stuff before where they limit you to like 5% overhead and 2% profit or something crazy. And what you do is
crazy.
You just put crazy. You just put the money in something up above, right?
Right.
But in my opinion, it needs to be something that's kind of like somewhat believable. Okay. So I'm not just out here like charging $100,000.
Gold-plated screwdrivers.
Right. They cost $100,000 and we got to have them for this job. Although I did see like a congressional hearing the other day when they had a little bag of like bushings and the federal government had paid $70,000 for this little bag of bushings. So, I mean, they might be down for some gold-plated screwdrivers out there
Sick.
if you're
That's cool.
doing a federal government job. But that doesn't work in our situation. So, anyways, excuse me. Like I said, it's got to be something reasonable, right? So you can't charge $10,000 an hour for a truck to sit there just because you need an extra, $80,000 in the job or something. You got to spread it out. You got to make it look legitimate. So like I put the trucks on there. I said, so what I did, I followed like some methodology, right? And I was like,
how did you come across this methodology?
It was just up
Google.
Here. It was just up here in my
Oh,
brain,
wow.
floating around.
That thing came pre-equipped with methodology.
It did.
Wow,
3.
I need that.
This is one of the 3 I've got.
Oh, let's hear it. This is a gem.
So I took the truck and I said, all right, here's the cost of a new truck. And that truck's going to last us 85,000 miles.
Okay.
Right. So I divided the cost out across 80,000 miles. And then I doubled that. Right. Because
Okay.
I want that truck to pay for itself and the next one.
That's right.
And then I said, well, we're going to drive it about 50 miles a day on this job.
Okay.
And so
And that's now your day rate.
That was my starting point for the day rate. And let's
and then
say
you
that
multiplied
was
that times 1.25.
yeah. Like let's say that was,
you need just a little bit more.
If that came up to be $200 a day or whatever, or 150, maybe I bumped it to 200, 225, something like that. So
I like that.
Yeah. But I mean, still, it's like within the area, the neighborhood of like, I could explain why
you
I did it that way.
You have some math to back it up.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. When you're doing all this stuff, like you need to I always think about it and I'm like, all right, if I'm sitting across a table from somebody and they ask me about this number specifically, how am I going to explain it to them?
Welder.
Right. Right. So my father-in-law, he says, can it pass the red face test? Right.
I like this.
Yeah. If someone calls you out on that number, can you explain it to them without your face turning red?
I mean, if they do and you don't have an explanation, then say, I'll need some time to get back to you and then call us.
Right. Yeah.
Just kidding.
So
call them.
Just get creative. That's the biggest thing about it. Get creative, make it look reasonable, make it realistic, make it reasonable. Hopefully you're not out here trying to just screw people.
That's
and
the whole
you can
thing.
Back up what you're doing.
Right. That's the whole thing. So instead of just talking, we could kind of like stretch this out. We got a few minutes, but because we have an Australian listener joining.
Okay.
I saw this thing, maybe it was on, I don't know where I saw it, but apparently Australia has one of the longest fence, one of the world's longest structures. And it's a fence that's like 4,000 miles long.
Really?
And it's intended supposedly to keep animals from ravaging fertile farmland.
Okay. 4,000 miles.
Yeah. So in southern Queensland, it's one of the longest structures in the world. 3,488 miles.
Oh, come on, Zach.
4,000. I mean, what's the difference? They probably built it in kilometers and then I converted it to miles.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many feet that is in kilometers or what. I'm just goofing off. I don't. So yeah.
I was showing one of our crew leaders, Jeff.
Yeah.
I was showing him the other day. We were looking at.
Dude, Australia has the longest fence. They're fence people. They are like. I was freaking out about it, man. I'm like, dude, these guys are made to do fence.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You were showing Jeff a conversion table or something? Is that where you're headed?
No.
Oh, not at all.
No. I was showing him so the fence hog we have.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So they make one that is for barbed wire. And it has the spot for your 3 rolls of barbed wire to go. And it has like a little tensioner and some pulleys to where you can run along the fence line and feed out your 3 rolls of barbed wire at once.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I was like, I don't know, man. What do you think about getting one of these? I mean, it's a $10,000 thing. And I kind of, once again, I did some math and I figured out like how many man hours we would have to save in order to pay for that. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Cause right now,
dude, I spent $10,000 in gloves last year.
What?
For them stretching barbed wire.
Yeah. Right. Right now, what we do, we have a piece of pipe welded to the side of the mast on the forks.
I didn't spend $10,000 on gloves, but
I hope not. I know not.
Right. We have a piece of pipe on top of the mast on the
Well, on the side.
on the skid steer.
Yeah, and they put one roll of barbed wire on it, and they drive down, hook it up, and then they go back into the next one and run it down. And I'm like, nah, man. I mean, 10 grand, it wouldn't take very long to pay for that thing if you can run 3 at a time instead of just one.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, we were talking about that. And then I said, you know what? There's a lot of cool fence equipment in the world. And so I showed them the, is it called Pro Track? Something like that? Pro Tech, maybe?
That's the machine that
Yeah,
drives
you saw
the
it.
posts.
Yeah, it was the track machine
Yeah.
that had the driver and auger and all that stuff on it. So we kind of looked at that for a minute, and then I showed him a trailer. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was in Australia. It seemed like it. But this trailer, and it was for like high tensile wire. And the posts were all like pre-drilled or whatever for the high tensile wire to go through it. And they were all just hanging in the trailer. And so they had a
That's cool.
GPS on a side by side, and they used that to lay out the fence line. And then they hooked this trailer up, hooked the wire up to their breaker that they built or their endpoint or whatever that they built. And then they just start driving the trailer along, and the dude sitting on the trailer would like feed a post out, and it had a little hydraulic driver that would drive the post down. And then they would just follow the line laid out by the side by side so far. And then they would feed out one more post and it would drive it down. Pretty freaking cool. It's like a one pass.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you had your wire stretched, you had your post in, you were building the breakers as you went along through there. So pretty cool stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of cool stuff. And
so to wrap up the show, closing remarks. Basically, my words of experience, wisdom, whatever. If people ask you for a thing pertaining to your cost, whether it be usual or unusual, be flexible.
Yeah.
Also, I think just open communication is really legit.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Walters Fencing in Australia has that set up.
Cool. This is ag fence we're talking about.
Yeah.
I have zero experience.
And Amanda's here from Contractor Accelerator. Welcome.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a cool setup, man. It was neat to watch. So sorry.
Yeah. Well, welcome, guys. Neat thing. Thanks for chiming in from Australia, and Amanda joining us right here at the end of the show. Contractor Accelerator representing. Yeah, so people ask you for stuff. Be flexible. Don't freak out. And sometimes I wait 4 hours.
Sometimes you kind of just need to like walk away from it for a minute and just calm down.
Dude, that applies. That is a universal truth. You hear me say this, and we talk about these things that apply to business that are like, if you do this everywhere in your life, your life will get easier.
Mm-hmm.
Take a deep breath. Don't respond immediately. You don't have to rock it back an email within 1 minute. I think same day is a good practice.
Yeah.
But if you need to go to the coffee pot, talk to your coworker about what you were just asked and don't respond immediately, then you'll know that the way to go, But yeah, I mean, break down your numbers. Why not? Give it a shot. And then you can decide, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. I did that the other day. I responded immediately and it didn't go well for me.
I've drafted immediately and then walked away and then came back and was like, ooh.
Actually, I did it twice. I did it twice this week, man. Once was, well, I don't want to go too far into that, but.
Well, I just closed the show, so you're going to be by yourself. Y'all can stay around. I'm just kidding. Y'all can hang around Dan alone if you want to.
One of the times was, I mean, and I actually did let it soak in a minute, but it made me kind of mad, and I just kind of like snapped off at him a little bit. And so I overreacted, and I later then had to go back and be like, oh, sorry.
Was this a customer?
No.
Employee?
Yeah. It was a team member.
Subcontractor.
No. It was a team member.
Oh, a team member.
Yeah.
So I like this lack of hierarchy.
Yeah. I'm giving you no hints, right?
I don't want any.
So anyways, I went back to him later and I was like, hey, I still don't appreciate what you did and what you said to me, but I did overreact and I did.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was talking.
Yeah.
I'm going off the rails. I'm going down this path.
Let's go.
I was talking to a friend about that, about parenting.
Yeah.
When you have to apologize to your kids for the way that you told them no, basically.
Mhm.
Like, I'm growing you, but the way I went about it was inappropriate. So,
Mhm.
like, that seems counterintuitive. It seems like you're saying what they did was okay.
Yeah, right.
But
But I didn't. So like in my situation, I was like, I still don't think what you did was right, but
the way I approached it was wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't deserve that.
yeah, that was it. That was
Good
it, man.
stuff.
So
That's good, man.
all right, now I'm done. That was it. That's all I have to say.
Do you break down your numbers? Yes, we do. And more frequently, I am breaking down a lot of things, more than I used to. And I used to would respond with, you know what, if they don't like it, forget them.
Yeah.
If they can't take a joke, you know,
Right.
and then move on. But you know what? We're here. We're in a service. We're in a service industry. We provide a service.
That's it.
And people just want to know they're getting good quality or good service or whatever that looks like. And if to make me as the salesman a little more trustworthy, if that's what it's going to take, then why not? And
Right.
ultimately sell the job
Mm-hmm.
and propagate a future for the business I've come to enjoy working for.
Maybe sell the job. Right.
But
I mean, it's not guaranteed that you're going to, but it's guaranteed that you're not if you say no, screw you.
right. I didn't tell them to piss off.
Right.
So cool. Thanks everybody. Thank you all for joining us. If you got any questions about this, there's many avenues to contact us. Or you wanted us to talk about something else, or you have some comments about a time when, you know, what if they used to break down their numbers and now they just won't ever do it and they got a good story? Why not? I'd love to entertain that.
I would too.
You know,
I would be I'd be down for some conversation about why you should not break down your numbers.
right. I think fence installation methods are cool.
Mhm.
Tools you use to get the job done. Maybe a shot photo of a tool you use that you like, that you made yourself.
Yeah.
Or whatever. All kinds of things fence. Doesn't always have to be so in depth about the business and the inner functions, although that's kind of our model here for the show. But we like all that stuff. We like the people that are involved in this stuff. So, you know, reach out to us, introduce, maybe we get you on the show, at least give you a little spot, do a screenshot of your workshop or whatever.
Yep.
You know, anything.
Yeah. Anything.
Come on, come on. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thanks. Ilaria was here in spirit. And so just take a moment for Ilaria, who's somewhere out there behind some other camera.
At the
It
beach.
helps to think we might be looking at the same screen right now, you know?
All right.
Sorry, that was weird.
Yep.
That didn't happen like I wanted to.
This is the end.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.